All right, we are back. We're back with season 3 of Mind Over Music. I'm your host, Sean Ali Moladino. So happy to be with everyone this evening. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest with us. Her name is Chanda Parbhoo. You might know her from being the executive director of the SAAVE Texas Education Fund. She is the executive director there, and she's been doing such incredible work with us here, not only in supporting some of the efforts that we're doing in educating the community with and how to react to things like hate crimes, finding our own agency within our communities, and really how to respond locally to some of the atrocious events that are happening globally. So I want to welcome Chanda Parbhoo to the show. Chanda, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Oh, I put you on mute, so you might want to, you're going to have to unmute that. But thank you so much for joining our show tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, the context that we have behind our show, especially today, is something that is going to come with great anticipation with the 2024 election that's just underway. We're going to see a lot of Islamophobia and a lot of that rhetoric kind of rise as Donald Trump kind of comes off of these indictments. He's on so many different gag orders. He just got fined $10,000 for kind of going against one of his gag orders, especially in the case of Michael Cohen, which is one of his old lawyers. And with the gag orders being lifted on Trump, we're going to hear so much more dangerous rhetoric that's going to give rise and fuel the fire for Islamophobia. And one thing that we've been seeing in the news media is how hate crimes have increased by several fold for the Jewish community. And one reason why this has been able to happen and why that statistic even exists is because as of today, the Jewish community does know how to report hate crimes. And so this was also something that came out of recent events that happened here in North Texas with the shootings that happened in Allen, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But, it's something that you have been passionate about. People have come to you as Chanda, but also as an organizer in the community to say, how do we report events of hate crimes or Islamophobia that are happening in our communities? And so you're finally able to do something about it, and you have an event that's coming up called the Hate Crimes Forum. So before we get into that, Chanda, I want everybody to kind of understand your story. You were born in South Africa in the middle of an apartheid. You moved over to Canada, and when you finally got here to the United States, it was in the late 70s, and that was right at the beginning of this transition that people were starting to see, the Iranian people as the enemy of the U.S. Let's talk a little bit about your experience here when you first moved to Texas and Tyler, Texas, as a young elementary school child, and how that informed your America persona and who you are as an American today.
Yeah. Packed conversation. So much to say right there. So yes, I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, as a second-class citizen with no voice and no ability. We just accepted the racism that was dished out to us. We didn't have an opportunity to say anything. A little bit of that kind of followed us to Canada because there were so few of us there, and so we were sort of helpless on our own. But back then, it was dot busters or packies, and people taunted us there as well. But it happened every so often, but I really feel like the Iran crisis was really that moment in history or that experience for us that really magnified what was going on in our country. So yes, moving to Tyler, Texas was an experience in itself. Moving from Toronto, Canada to Tyler, Texas was an experience in itself. But I would say the experience in Tyler, Texas was they didn't know who we were. They didn't understand that we were Indian, and people would constantly think I was, Latino, and I don't know, how to speak Spanish, but it really started to amplify the discrimination as we moved to Dallas, and where people kind of understood us maybe a little bit more globally. So in the whole crisis, it was back before the internet. And so we would wait for the 6 o'clock news, and you would kind of get an update on what was going on around the world. So at 6 o'clock, our family kind of knew that as soon as the hostages were going to be paraded across the screen, that we should not be going out. Like, we should not be going to the mall. We should not be going to the supermarket. We're going to be told, go back where you came from. We had ice chips thrown at us at the mall, and we were just, middle school and high school kids. And it was a lot, but it was a really wake up experience for all of us, because you're supposed to, we're not supposed to be discriminated against. This is the United States of America. It wasn't Johannesburg, South Africa, where that was a given. That is the world that you live in, but that wasn't supposed to be what we were supposed to experience here. So
Yeah.
yes, that was extremely, extremely tough.
Yeah, because at least in Johannesburg, they called it what it was, which was an apartheid. And
Mhm.
here in the US, at least the American flag to me represents freedom. And
Right,
the establishment of the United States was based on religious freedom, and
right.
I think that's kind of what the story was behind 9/11, right? And how we were discriminated. I remember in high school, I was in my AP history class, and I knew that life was not going to be the same after that, especially because after the school day was over, we all went to the Euless Public Library. We would go and hang out and study, and we realized that stories were coming out, and people started calling us and saying, "Hey, like, get home because people are throwing bricks through the windows of cars that have the like Thuspies on their rear view mirror, which are like the prayer beads." And that was an eye opener for us. Some of our friends who were Sikh were getting discriminated. So I had a friend whose father got shot because he was wearing a puggree and he was running the cash register at a gas station. And it was just insane how dramatic and traumatic it was for being a US citizen. And that led to things like the Patriot Act. It led to other events happening that took our rights away.
Yes.
And I'm in Ismaili, and we would go to Jamaat Khana, or you would go to Masjid, and we would have these people just say, "Hey, like, go home as quickly as you can. Once you're done with prayers, like, get out." And we would have police officers kind of surrounding us. We didn't know whether they were helping us or intimidating us, and it was kind
Mm,
of both at the same time.
yeah.
And we would have people that would circle around our places of prayer with shotguns and things of that sort. So it was very serious. And when we think about our freedoms and how delicate it is to preserve these freedoms, one of the most important things to do is to be involved and not shut down and not have your voices heard. That's what we did in 9/11. We said, okay, like, a lot of us are illegal, ISIS behind us, people are getting immigrated left, right, and center. And our communities were kind of at the helm of all of this, and we were extremely vulnerable. So we gave up all the rights that we possibly could so that we can kind of get away from the limelight. Nobody stood up for the community. Nobody educated the community outside, and
Yeah.
we were just kind of told to put our heads down. I mean, was that similar to your experience in 9/11 as well?
Yeah, during the Iran crisis as well, there were so
Yeah.
few of us that our job was to put our heads down and, like I said, avoid the mall, avoid the supermarket. Like, that shouldn't be the America that we live in. That is not what we bought into. But yes, that was what we did. And even for the Iran crisis, we had nothing to do with Iran, but it was just the color of our skin that automatically, labeled us into this. And even though none of us had anything to do with 9/11, we were all just bundled into this group. So it was, the only thing we knew to do was to put our heads down. And once again, even for 9/11, I felt like it was a very lonely experience because there were still very few South Asians, not like it is today, but still, I don't think there wasn't any kind of organization or anything that we could go to back then to saying, hey, these are the things that are affecting our community. So it was a very lonely experience. It was, and we were tight with our family. We stayed home. I mean, I remember when the second plane hit, I knew it was sort of the rush of what happened during the Iran crisis came back to me. It's like, oh, we can't go to the supermarket. So you go to the supermarket and you just start buying food and, trying to avoid going out as much as possible. So that should not be the America that we live in. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, and there is, today there is nowhere to hide, right? I mean, obviously you can like DoorDash all
Yeah.
anything, but
Yeah.
everything is so pervasive, and there is absolutely no privacy. So,
Yeah.
and this was another thing that was challenging is, when Trump first came into office, and I know there's a lot of, our South Asian community is not a monolith. There's a lot of people who do support Trump,
Hmm.
and our single voter issue voters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just want to reduce taxes and things of that sort. But the first few months that Trump was in office, he was surrounded by Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon, so many others that pushed him to do this Muslim ban, and he
Hmm.
enacted a Muslim ban for all these countries and different countries in Africa and things of that sort. And that goes to show that our agency is also proactively being taken away from us.
Yes.
And so, and especially after, COVID, it happened a few years later, right at the end of COVID, when things started getting back to normal, we had a shooting in North Texas in Allen. And, this was a horrific event that was specifically targeting South Asian and more specifically South Asian women. The shooter was, deemed as a racist. They found a swastika on his body and things of that sort. But when they started going into, some of his social media, what did they find? Because I know that the Department of Justice kind of talked to you about this, right? Or the local police talked to you about this.
Yeah, it was actually from an organization called Stop AAPI Hate. And we were all kind of working on addressing the hate crime. And they said, Chanda, we just want you to know that we found social media posts about Indian women. He was specifically disliked Indian women. It had ranted and raged about them on many occasions. And so I really feel like that's who he was targeting. He did kill one South Asian woman, and there were several South Asian women in that cluster of people that he killed. And so it was frightening. It was really, really frightening. And I think it just really, really stunned our community. Like, what are we going to do? A lot of questions started coming up. Like, I don't understand, like, why are these hate groups in existence? A lot of people started asking me about gun laws. Like, why do we have so many guns? I mean, I just feel like we've become a nation so numb to gun violence because it happens every day, but it's never about you. It's never in your backyard. So this was very close to home for our community because it was in your backyard.
Yeah.
And so it was a shocking situation, especially knowing that he was probably going to try to target one of us. But that is one of the reasons that this particular forum that we're doing, it's building resilience in the shadow of hate, and to address the specific issues and in really understanding what is being done about hate groups and hate crimes, and understanding it so that we understand how to report it and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because as we started going through some of these events, more and more so from the 70s through the early 2000s with 9/11, and today we have so many more organizations that have come out that can advocate for our AAPI community. Even with the Allen shooting, the Dallas Asian American Historical Society led by Stephanie Drenka, she was there, and you guys led this candlelight vigil together,
Yes.
to kind of come together in solidarity to bring the greater South Asian and the greater AAPI communities together. We also see that as a little bit of a divide as well.
Yeah.
And with this new event that's coming out, the Hate Crimes Forum, we're going to have representation from the FBI, from the Department of Justice, and is goes to exactly what you were saying. So many people in our community don't know what to do when they are faced with violence, when they're faced with a hate crime, when they don't even know if it was a hate crime, but they have questions about it, or they want to understand, when can I be where are situations where I should protect myself, or how far does gun law go? If it's open carry, an open carry policy right now,
Mhm.
especially under Greg Abbott's governance, he's actually trying to get people that are 18 and over now to have open carry rights, and he already passed it for 21 and over. And so, you think about the trajectory that, we're kind of moving forward toward, as citizens of this country, but really citizens of this state and in this region in northern Texas. How do we start thinking about the upcoming next few months, especially in the wake of this next election that's going to happen in 2024, where we know that the rhetoric is going to start, increasing the pressure and the heat, amongst the greater AAPI community as well.
Yeah, if I could take just one step back and kind
Yeah.
of talk about the portion about reporting crimes, because I sit on tables, locally as well as on the state and national, and it seems to be that our community does not report crimes. And then if you don't report the crimes, that means that resources don't come our way.
Right.
And so people don't invest in. So as soon as the Allen shooting happened, we began to realize that we as an organization didn't have a rapid response kit. That means we should have at our fingertips everybody that we need to contact, and all the different resources. And when you're talking to minority communities, it's so important to have culturally competent resources. For example, one of the victims didn't speak English, Gujarati family. And, it took us a while to make the connection and to be able to help them. But because we don't report those crimes, there aren't resources and structures in place. And so that is one of our goals, is to make this a long-term conversation. So I hope everybody will come on December the 6th. It's in Plano, Texas from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Sockwell Center. But it's really important that we start reporting the crimes so that even as an organization, we can start to develop the resources. And to your comment when you started the piece about, yes, the Jewish community has like the ADL, which has been tracking hate crimes for such a long time, but also doing a wonderful job on getting their community to report the crimes. And we don't really have a central place for that. There are some Muslim organizations that are doing an amazing job in that area, but we need more education about how to do that. A lot of people in our community are just not familiar, and oftentimes something very horrible will happen and they'll just put their heads down like, I don't want to make a big deal about it. I don't want my name to be on a registry. And so we're really trying to develop a space for trust and to saying it's going to be okay. We're going to hand hold you through the whole process. And this is what needs to be done for our community.
Yeah, and to go back to the whole 9/11 situation where people were getting carpet bombed with hate, and
Mhm.
the challenge here is people don't know whether you are a practicing Muslim, whether you are a Hindu, whether you are Sikh. People don't know whether you're Christian. They just know that you look like the face of the person that I see on my media stream
Mhm.
or social media stream or whatever it might be. And so this is not just a, stop hate crime for Islamophobia. Islamophobia is the mechanism in which is being used in order to perpetuate hate against brown people, right?
Right.
For the greater AAPI community. And so
Right.
if you have a certain look, they're not going to care. Nobody cares,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the same thing happened, in the 1800s, right, where and also with in the wake of Pearl Harbor, right? Like they were trying to just literally jail people that were of Japanese descent, but anyone that looked even similar was getting the same exact treatment.
Yeah.
And so, what is a crime to one is a crime to all. And we need to be able to understand our rights, not only to defend Islamophobia, or whatever your political stance might be on either side of this Hamas Israel challenge that's going on right now, but it's to understand and think globally but act locally. And it is to actually take that specific action. So if you are a person of the AAPI community, it is absolutely imperative for you to come this Wednesday, December 6th, to the Sockwell Center in Plano ISD. The event starts at 6:30, and Department of Justice and the FBI will be there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely come and have your voice heard. We also want the FBI and the DOJ to see a room full of South Asians, AAPIs, and allies to let them know that we're a community that are very concerned. And I just wanted to also include in there that we also stand against any kind of anti-Semitism that's happening right now, because both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are rising very quickly. And I think what's important to know is that on that particular issue, that it is emboldening people that hate, both the Islamophobia and the anti-Semitism. The people that are rising from that hate all of us, and that we're united in what we need to do to make sure that all of our communities are safe.
Yeah, and as Radio Azad stands, we condemn all forms of anything that relates to any type of hate, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anything that, because one, as you're absolutely correct on that. Like, what affects and impacts one group is just one news cycle away from impacting another. There was this movie that I saw a few months ago called The Killers of the Flower Moon, and it was directed by Martin Scorsese, and the idea of that was, it was the Choctaw community that was on essentially a reservation in Oklahoma, and they struck liquid gold, which is oil, and they started getting subsidies from the government, and people started coming in from outside and started killing off. And there were so many murders that happened in that community as a fight for resources. And it was a really interesting story, but it's a real story that happened a little over 100 years ago. And one of the challenges was that the FBI, it wasn't 100 years, it was within the century, but the FBI had no idea. And the community literally had to go to Washington, D.C., get, J. Edgar Hoover's attention on this matter and say, there have been so many people that have been murdered in our community. And only then did the FBI start turning its attention toward the issue. So, in this event, if nobody shows up on Wednesday and shows that they are here, that they are experiencing the pain, then we're not going to get the resources that are absolutely necessary to at least report these issues. I don't think we're going to stop them completely, but it is on the road to peace, and I think it's important for us to think about that as a community.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It really, compared to where we were like 20, 25 years ago when we were alone, we are no longer alone. And I think that's the big point we need to make now, is that we do have the South Asian community is the fastest growing minority population in Texas. I've lived in this state for 45 years, and I've seen it explode. And we don't have to live in the shadow of hate anymore. This is our opportunity to come together, not only for this particular instance, but also back to the civic engagement work that we do as well. It's like we have the opportunity to really shift the landscape of Texas politics. We have the opportunity to change the narrative of this situation with hate crimes. And the one way that you do that is that you come together. So it's really important. And I hope that everybody takes an opportunity to come and come to our event on Wednesday.
Yeah. And we should all be so proud of ourselves. As a community, we've done a wonderful job in not only contributing to our communities with our education, with our backgrounds, how much we care, our ethics, our values, but we're all taxpayers. And if I showed you my last 10 years of how much I paid in taxes, it's what most people make, right? Each year consistently. And and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of paying my fair share of taxes. And that also includes the ability to be a part of policy making and to influence, the landscape as I see fit, because I contribute to this country and I contribute to our roads and bridges and all the infrastructure and all these programs that are so wonderful for the American people. And I'll continue fighting for that. And I think everyone should have that badge of honor and should think about their contribution as something that is worthy and that is needed in order to move society forward in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in just about a little bit over 3 months from now, we will have our primaries to be thinking about.
Yes.
It's a very short distance away. We're going to blink, and the primaries are going to be here. Out of 300,000 South Asian voters across the state of Texas, 10% of our population will vote.
Yes.
10%. That is not okay. We are very educated and contributors to the economy, and we should have a say in what happens in our communities. And it is so important to vote. So I hope we will meet again to talk about that when we get closer to that.
We're in this okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna just be for real for a second. The I you know, one thing, and Chanda, I want to get your thoughts on this. One thing that I always see as a consistent challenge, and I've been on like the climate change train for, over 10 years, and just advocating for things that are to come. And what I've noticed consistently is people don't care unless it's, the roof is on fire and like you need to, like put it out today. Like unless it's an immediate thing, people don't really think about, oh, well, I'm not experiencing that right now. So maybe, one thing that we're gonna see, we're doing this hate crimes forum before another hate crime that is immediately brought to our attention, scares the heck out of everybody.
Yeah.
This is a proactive forum. And it's not really that proactive because it already happened in Allen. But a lot of people are just going to still wait on the sidelines, even though this whole thing between Israel and Palestine is happening, Gaza Strip is happening right now. They're going to say, well, this is not really pertaining to us. How do you reconcile the inaction when you know that's the 2024 election is upon us, and that rhetoric is really going to start, stepping up like to the next level, and
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to stop it once it's too late.
Yeah.
And now, I think I think you should just have this hate crimes forum and then just do another one like in
Yeah.
8 months and say, hey, I told you so, we did this thing 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And just kind of have it as a proactive thing that is on a consistent basis, because more and more people will trickle in over time once
Yeah.
they start feeling threatened immediately, versus taking this proactive approach, which is what the
Yeah.
organization is doing today.
Yeah. So this is just the beginning of the conversation. We're going to have, a cadence set up on it, because if you just remember a couple of months before that, 7 months before that, there were 4 women that were accosted at a restaurant in Plano. So it's, this is one of the reasons that we're doing this. It's like we know it's going to happen consistently, like we can't avoid it, but we're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. And so, what are the things that we can do to inform our community? And the more people get involved in the different events that we're doing, I think the more committed they are going to be to voting. I think one of the greatest obstacles we face in our community is a lack of information.
Yep.
And so, to be very honest, we're somewhat good voters. In a presidential election, 75%.
We're great on the presidential elections.
Yeah,
Yeah. But these
75%
local
of
elections.
us will come and vote.
Yeah.
But we know this for a fact is that people go to the booth. And if you know that this past election cycle, you couldn't just click Democrat or Republican and walk out, because it'll be straight ticket and you'll vote for all the Democrats and all the Republicans. It didn't happen this year.
No.
This year, in 2020, you had to tick every single one of them. And we saw people walking in the polling booth and 30 seconds later just walking out, and that way we knew they weren't picking all of the people down the ballot.
Got it.
So after the Allen event, we were at another rally where I spoke about gun violence, and I went up to the South Asians. There were lots of South Asians at that park, and I would go up to them and I said, I'd like for you to join our organization. We're going to tell you when it's to vote. And they're like, I vote for every election. And I was like, great. Who's your state house representative? And they're like, we don't know. And I said, are you concerned about guns? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, that's the person that is voting on gun laws on your behalf. He goes, okay, give me your stuff. Yeah. So it's a lack of education and really connecting those things, because everybody thinks, oh, there's gun violence, and the president is is responsible, but it's not. There are people in the state house of Texas that are making decisions and laws that affect you directly. So,
Yeah.
just recently we were talking about vouchers. Our community tends to gravitate towards really good public school systems, and that was, that was going to be in trouble because it was going to get defunded by the voucher system.
Yeah.
So really bringing it down to those things that affect you directly and teaching people where all the decision making is taking place. So the primary is really important because everybody has to decide if they're a Democrat or a Republican. Then you have to decide who you're going to vote for to be on the final ballot. And people don't understand that. And that's why 10% of the 300,000 people that we have out there are going to be voting, but consistently just having that message. And I'd like to think that most people that come to our organization are really good voters, and that's because we consistently feed them. We have a little bit of peer pressure that goes on every election cycle. As soon as it's time to vote, send us your voting sticker, selfie picture, and you'll just see on our Instagram feed just the line of people that are voting. And it's like, oh, look at that. People are voting. Maybe I should figure out what's going on. So we try our best to really set the alarm that it's time to vote, and you need to.
Well, I pledge to you and to our audience and everyone who's listening in Radio Azad that I'll do my best to bring as many representatives, people who are running for office, and exactly what their platform is, what issues are important to them, what their constituents are telling them. And we'll get that to the public, as often as possible. Every Monday, pretty much in 2024 is going to be a political show
Okay.
that Mind Over Music is on. So I would love to have you back and
Yeah.
work with you and other organizations to bring as many people as possible. The voucher system, as you had mentioned, this is something that Salman Bojani had come on and talked to everybody about, not only because he's the representative for District 92. But it's important for everybody to understand that public tax dollars should belong to public schools, and you shouldn't privatize that. So many people in our community, our Desi community, as we grow up, they pick the houses that they live in, the neighborhoods that they live in, based on the public schooling system.
Yeah.
And we have very, very profound ways of finding this data, right? We have like a grading system that says, okay, this is an A school, B school, C school. We know whose child is going to this school. They're such a smart boy, smart girl, whatever it might be. And it's, people follow each other, and our communities are built on the backbone of public schooling systems. So really important for us to understand these issues and get them right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Chanda, anything else that you want to mention before?
No, I just want to plug Bojani for something else that happened this year, which I think it's like so important because, our organization is statewide. And so when you kind of look at the population between the Dallas-Fort Worth area versus the greater Houston area, our population voter numbers are about the same, about 100, 120,000 here, about 100, 120,000 there. But there's a very large number of South Asians who run for office, who are in office, and we don't have the same situation happening here. So if you're interested in running for office, we need more representation. And Salman was really great, Representative Bajani, because we had our first Desi Day of Action. We took 70 people. We took buses from Dallas and Houston, and people came from San Antonio and Austin. It was great. We had 70 South Asians advocating for different issues, but one of them was to have Diwali and Eid as a public school holiday so that kids aren't taking exams on there. But Salman Bajani, Representative Bajani, was one of the authors of the bill, and that actually passed. And when we were in Austin, we visited 140 representatives. So we even talked to rural representatives that might not even, have a large South Asian population, but it's like, this is what's important to us. This is the things that we're advocating for. So it was, we need more people to run for office, and also do the civic engagement work that we're doing to make sure that our voices are heard to elected officials, not just the South Asian ones, but all of them, and in presenting our case and our voice.
Yeah, and I think the basis of this is religious freedom. And someone also went to the state capitol, and he went to the church on the state capitol, and there was a Bible there. He also put a Torah, a Quran, the Bhagavad Gita in there. And it was a wonderful thing that represents tolerance, and it represents all faiths, which is really the foundation of the United States. So really, really incredible work that Salman Bojani is doing. He also promised me that if I can find certain candidates that want to run for office, that he would mentor them as in any way that he can. And we have a second, vote of confidence in you, Chanda, that you'll be able to mentor and help with things like fundraising and a strategic approach, and things of that sort. So if there's any person in the greater AAPI community that wants to come forth, run for office, it's such an honorable thing to do for this country. And it's a great way to represent your diversity, your background, and the community that you come from, that have informed your values, your ethics, and your principles. So really, really great work that you're doing, Chanda. Thank you so much for always taking into consideration our community and always advocating for us as well.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time and the platform.
Yes, we love you, and we can't wait to have you back all throughout 2024.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be some really challenging conversations, but we'll try to make light of it.
Yeah, let's keep the fire going. We got a big year ahead of us. So
we do. Absolutely. All right, everybody, come out. Hate Crimes Forum is happening this Wednesday on December 6th at 6:30 p.m. And this is at the Sockwell Center, Plano ISD Sockwell Center. And what's the address on that again? Do you remember what the address was?
Yeah, hang on just a second.
So everybody just wait up. We will tell you guys. Well, this is bad hosting by me, because I should have this pulled up, and I do. It is located at 6301 Chapel Hill Boulevard in Plano, Texas, 75093. Okay, so come out Wednesday. Really important. Representatives from the FBI and the Department of Justice will be there, and the wonderful Chanda Parbhoo will be there as well. So please come out. She is the executive director of the SAAVE Texas Education Fund. To get more information or to volunteer, Chanda, if you want to, tell everybody the best way to get in touch with you, and also where people can donate, because it's not just about your time and your presence, but funding is really important as well.
Absolutely. We actually have a match fund going on right now. So if you go to our website, which is SAAVE educationfund.org. You'll see a donation page there as well. And like I said, it's going to be matched dollar for dollar until the end of the year. So we're very excited about that offer. But yes, we are, the South Asian community has never been invested in the state of Texas. And so this is the first organization that is doing a statewide effort to organize the South Asian community. We were often overlooked, underrepresented. They didn't think there were that many of us until we told them there were 300,000 of us. So now all of a sudden there is a real interest in how we're going to be shaping Texas politics. So yes, if you get an opportunity, please go to our website, SAAVE and any kind of donation you can make would be great. There should be an email address on there, and please sign up for our emails. And we would love to keep you informed about the other events that we're doing. But definitely come to this event on Wednesday. It's a really important educational event for our community.
Yeah, and a great advocacy event for our community as well. The SAAVE Texas Education Fund is a 501c3, so any donation that you make is tax deductible, and it will be matched. So make sure that you go out, donate $100,000 if you got it.
Yes, please.
And that's going to be matched. I don't know who's matching it, but I feel bad.
Yes, yeah. We got a pretty nice match donor, so
wonderful.
Yes, that would be great.
Love it. Okay, Chanda, thank you so much, and we'll be back with some more Mind Over music. Thank you, Chanda. We will take you off, and we'll continue our program.